Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music, and today we're looking at Spitfire's library, Mercury. It runs on their new Solar synth. It's probably worth talking a little bit about Solar. And it utilizes samples from Chas Smith's unique collection of bespoke instruments, instruments that have appeared in countless contemporary film scores. Wow, this thing's a beast. So I've never had my hands on a Chas Smith instrument. He's been at it 40 years or so. And the unique collection of bowed, plucked, hammered, electroacoustic instruments that he's provided for film composers and other sort of, I guess I'll just say atonal or probably post-tonal composers is exceptional. I only really know one fellow who's used it a lot, Charlie Clouser, responsible for the Saw franchise, American Horror Story. He was in Nine Inch Nails. So I reached out to Charlie. What do you have to say about it? He's a Chas Smith maniac, like as much as anyone I've ever met. And I say that in the best possible way. Charlie says, Spitfire's Mercury is a great tour through 40 years of Chas Smith's custom instruments, most of which have been, until now, inaccessible to us mere mortals. And then at the end, he says something which I think, I hadn't exactly realized about Chas. Aerospace-grade metal fabricator who's also an ace pedal steel player and a microtonal expert who studied with Harold Budd, and Morton Subotnick, he means Morton Subotnick, the contemporary classical composer, and was at CalArts at just the right time in the 70s. Where else are you going to find that? He's right. Where else are you going to find that? Well, let's listen to some of these sounds, take a look a little bit at Solar. I'm very excited about this instrument. This review may take a while because to my, the name of this channel, I'm sure you've noticed, is Implied Music. And my attitude towards sound right now and sort of how we organize sound and experience it is to some degree post-tonal. I'm definitely, trained in harmony. We talk about it a lot, but I am fascinated by microtonal, atonal, and unusual sonorities. And that's what this instrument provides for us. Here's the first patch we'll look at. Implied copper box chain. I tweaked everything almost everything that we're going to look at in this review because it's beautiful. The synth engine allows us to load two samples, a raw sample down at the bottom of the travel all the way down here, and an affected sample all the way up at the top here. And it could be any two. Choose anything from the drop-down menu. In fact, there are tons of presets, literally hundreds. And they're amazing. Probably the best way to go is to choose, something from the left-hand side here to sort of try to focus your search. I went through them all, but I couldn't resist tweaking. Now, what I've done with this one here is to allow the oscillate mixer to modulate between the two samples. I've also gone into the effects pane for each and asked myself if I wanted to do anything with any of these available effects. This one, as it happens, I didn't do anything. And there's also a gate sequencer, which on this one I'm not using, but I'll use in later ones. This is just a gorgeous pad to play and appreciate. And the thing that I did really appreciate about this one, and you can see it down here, this clone checkbox allows us to create a copy of this sample and then tune it. In this case, I've tuned this one here 7 half steps. In other words, it's a fifth above its original sample. And then this one here is cloned 5 half steps. In other words, a fourth above its original sample. So as we, just a single note, you can hear it oscillating harmonically a little bit. The unique qualities of that particular metal, the way the treatment is handled, all these things combine to give us this gorgeous, like literally just like lose yourself in it. The cue will write itself playable instrument. Each of these presets kind of offers that same thing, and then it offers this tweakability. So I will say that the Solar engine is really a great sounding engine. So here we have what I think of as a bass drone sound. And let's take a look at what's going on here under the hood as I tweaked the sound. I guess the first thing that I'll observe is that I've set a gate sequencer to run. Both sample A and sample B have their own lanes, and I've assigned a controller to depth. It's very easy to do this. You just control click on pretty much any controller in the synth and you can assign something to it. So here let's do this again. Here we go. So I'm going to bring in that value and listen to what happens rhythmically. Maybe get a little more volume here. Great for your next sci-fi score and God knows what else. Beautiful instrument. And it's all based around these sort of raw sounds that are created out of these unique instruments. My goodness. All right, let's go on. Here I was able to use the low pass filters and here the high pass filter. And I want you to observe two things here about the basic sound. I've assigned the filter on B to oscillate. You can see the speed of the oscillation here and the percentage. You can hear it kind of opening and closing, right? We could do the same thing with pitch, kind of anything we wanted. Do you hear it breathing now? I've also got the sequencer running and the same deal here, depth. It makes these sounds, which, you know, are never static anyway, even more dynamic and more interesting. Depending on your keyboard controller or how you're playing these things, you may want to go up to these 3 dots here and decide on which velocity curve is going to work best for you. The basic linear velocity means that you'll have to strike kind of hard to get the loudest. And then you have a number of other options, a nice low sound and then a medium sound that's just kind of really solid and predictable, almost like a compressor. There's an exponential negative and an exponential positive, which results in mostly fairly loud sounds. I actually found that, at least for this review, the shelf velocity was going to be best. I'm very impressed with the Solar synthesizer, and I think what's going to happen is we're going to see more libraries built on this basic engine. All right, one more that, again, I could not resist treating myself. And this one, I got to confess, I feel like I channeled a little bit of the distressed and distorted vibe that I think of as being part of Charlie's world. I'm probably just deceiving myself, but there it is. So the destructed sound is lovely. And look, I'm using the low pass filter to cut out a lot of the crunchiness. This is a beautiful sound. Let's turn on this. lose myself in it. I'm very impressed by this instrument. When you're playing an instrument like this, you can't think, what's the chord progression? You have to think, what is the sound? Respond to the sound, play back to it. Very exciting for a performer, really fun to score with. One last thing. Okay, again, we've got the kind of a destructed sound here. And then as I draw the slider down, we're back to just the original sample. That Lockheed texture is so beautiful, and yet this distorted sound provides us with all kinds of grit. So the idea of the oscillate mixer down here is to give us a way to easily just kind of like automatically go between the two. But I don't have to go all the way to the end. I can go only so far. Oh, that's nice. God, I love that. Let's give it a saw wave. Nice. Low note. I'm just crazy for that. So I'm increasing the way the filter impacts things. There, now you hear the filter wobbling as it hits. We could do the same thing with pitch. I'm just holding down like one note, just with my foot with the sustain pedal. Let's pan it a bit. Clone the top. Light detuning. Now we're getting somewhere, right? And then I'm going to go over here, see what we've got for effects. Tape saturation, that's nice in the main effects. I'm looking just at the distorted sound here. Let's add this and increase the resonance. Nice. Okay, too much resonance, but I don't mind that hollow sound. And then we'll go into A and we'll add some distortion over here. More drive. Nice. Let's dampen it a bit. You see what I mean? You can't help tweaking it. Thank you, Spitfire. Thank you, Chaz Smith. In the classical music world, there have been a number of composers who've focused on unique instruments in order to really express quite specific things. And if you want to research Harry Partch, P-A-R-T-C-H, you'll discover some really remarkable instruments. But these electroacoustic instruments that tap into the kind of very special qualities of metal sounds devised by Chaz Smith and utilized so brilliantly by composers like Charlie Clouser in film and television scores, really have a big place right now in the way we think about what we're doing musically and certainly what we hear on a day-to-day basis. Just super exciting for me. I will say this really dovetails nicely with Spitfire's recent release from the percussionist Evelyn Glennie, Resonate. She's kind of on the fly creating these acoustic effects by using resonating bodies and percussion instruments to kind of create almost otherworldly sounds, both bowed and struck. And all this stuff sort of adds up to a new way to think about composition, sound, and certainly to stimulate us to create things which we probably, would never have been able to arrive at otherwise. Instrument manufacturers like Chas Smith are essential to the sort of sound world that we live in as modern composers. And they've had an enormous influence on, everything that we're hearing right now, TV, film, right across the board. Well, this library may not be for everyone, but for any media composer or someone like me who writes for stage, theater all the time, I'm going to be going to this a lot now. And if anything else, it's just because, man, it is just a delight to play and to mess around with. The Solar engine, 2 thumbs up. People really haven't been talking. I don't know. I haven't seen that much from Spitfire about the new synth engine. It's not so unlike things that they've done in the past, but it is kind of a new front end. And to me, the effects and the filters sound really good. Boy, I hope this has been useful. Hey, like and subscribe, ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos. I will see you next time.